The Imperial High Court was a cathedral of intimidation, arched walls plated with black alloy, ceilings high enough to hide in shadow, the air heavy with the smell of ozone from the energy barriers that caged the accused. General Elias Vance stood alone in the circle of light. Chains of shimmering gravlocks bound his wrists, though his posture remained upright, shoulders squared. Around him, tiers of alien dignitaries murmured in their guttural and chittering tongues, the trial broadcast across the galaxy. On the human delegation's bench, faces were stone masks. They knew no words here would change the verdict. From the highest dais, High Regent Caleb Vrun's voice cut through the hall like a blade. Elias Vance of Terra, you are found guilty of treason against the Jatari Imperium, conspiracy to subvert imperial law, and the instigation of rebellion in 5 sectors. The so-called evidence, hollow footage, intercepted transmissions, was fabricated with surgical precision. Vance didn't bother contesting it. He had known from the moment Imperial enforcers dragged him from his quarters that this was theater, nothing more. You will be executed, Kaler declared. And your species will remember this day as the moment defiance ended. Vance's eyes, dark and steady, locked with Kaler's across the hall. Then he turned his head toward the holocams, his voice carrying across every human world, every colony, every mining outpost. One word, he said, enunciating it as if engraving it into stone. Run! No one moved. No one breathed. Then the executioner stepped forward, tall, insectoid, eyes glittering like obsidian. The energy blade hummed. A flash of white heat, and Elias Vance fell. The crowd erupted, some in applause, some in shocked murmurs. The human delegates stood and left in silence. Earth, Secure Council Bunker, Geneva. The broadcast ended, leaving the council chamber in heavy silence. Only the muffled hum of filtration fans broke it. Councillor Merrick slammed his fist on the table. We cannot retaliate. We strike, and they will glass half our cities within a week. Across from him, Councillor Arun's voice was low but sharp. And if we do nothing? They will strip us bare anyway, piece by piece, until Earth is nothing but a footnote in their archives. Admiral Rhea Solari had been silent, arms folded. She rose without a word, her chair scraping back. As she walked toward the door, Merrick called after her. Where are you going, Admiral? We're not done here. Yes, she said, pausing in the doorway. We are. Terran Defense Command, Orbital Station Halcyon. Colonel Idris Kane was waiting when Solari arrived. A veteran of the last war, his hair was steel gray, his expression carved in stone. You saw the broadcast? She asked. Every second. Vance's last word, what do you make of it? Kane's eyes narrowed. A warning. But not for us. Solari nodded. It was an activation code. He knew they'd be watching every channel. But we'd hear it. Without another word, they entered the command vault. The door sealed behind them with a hiss, isolating them from station chatter. Solari keyed a sequence into a console, commands buried deep in restricted archives. Protocol Iron Dawn, Kane read aloud. Haven't heard that name in 20 years. It's time, Solari said. Wake the yards. Call the sleepers. Outer belt, asteroid Dock 7 Black. Deep in the belt, an asteroid tumbled through silent darkness. To passing scanners, it was just a lump of nickel iron. Inside, lights flickered on for the first time in decades. Gantry cranes rolled from their hibernation tracks, uncovering hulls of unfinished warships hidden under layers of rock and composite shielding. Technicians in vacuum suits moved like ants over the skeletal frames, sealing armor plates, spooling coil gun barrels into place. The orders were simple and chilling, ready for deployment in 30 days. Imperial Capital, Regent's private war room. Kaler stood before a three-dimensional map of the Sol system, its planets glowing faintly in the dim light. Around him, his advisors argued, some urging an immediate fleet deployment, others advocating patience. They are humiliated, one said. They will fall into line now. Kaler's gaze remained fixed on Earth's pale sphere in the projection. Humiliation is a temporary leash, he replied. Fear is the collar that keeps it tight. We will remind them of the cost of rebellion. Kuiper Belt, Patrol Skirmish. 3 Terran corvettes lay in wait behind a drifting ice mass, hulls dark, drives cold. When the Imperial patrol ship swept into range, its scanners flickered over the debris field without registering the hidden vessels. At Solari's signal, the corvettes came alive, engines flaring, weapons locking. Missiles streaked through the void, slamming into the patrol's shields. The Imperial captain scrambled to return fire, but adaptive jamming shredded their targeting systems. 38 seconds later, it was over. The patrol ship was crippled, its crew taken alive. The Terrans towed their prize toward a covert dock near Triton. On the corvette's bridge, Solari watched the stars slide past. "This isn't the first strike," Kane said beside her. "It's the first step." She didn't look away from the viewport. "Then let's make the second count." Earth, underground network broadcast. Hours later, a signal pulsed through the encrypted lattice of the Terran underground. A woman's voice, calm, resolute, spoke over static. "They executed one of ours. We will execute their empire." The words repeated in dozens of languages, echoing through ship crews and asteroid mines, soldiers stationed on cold moons, and civilian traders in distant colonies. Graffiti began to appear in station corridors and city backstreets. Run. Imperial Border Station, Listening Post Karth 7. An officer reviewed intercepted transmissions with growing unease. Most were meaningless noise, some were fake, misleading reports of uprisings in sectors far from Earth. But the frequency of these signals was increasing, and patterns emerged: coordinated disruptions, deliberate false trails. He hesitated before sending his report to the capital. The last officer to suggest the humans might be preparing for war had been reassigned to a penal colony. Closing scene: the spark catches. In the quiet dock above Triton, engineers swarmed the captured Imperial vessel. Panels came off in showers of sparks, alien technology laid bare under human tools. The chief engineer, a wiry woman with oil-stained gloves, grinned as she examined the core of the FTL drive. "They thought they'd given us scraps," she said. "We'll give them back bullets." From the upper catwalk, Solari looked down at the scene, the hum of activity thrumming in her chest. The Imperium had killed Elias Vance to break humanity. Instead, they had given it a single, burning point of focus. Vance's voice echoed in her mind, "Run." She smiled, cold, sharp, certain. They should have listened. The captured Imperial patrol ship hung in the dim light above Triton, its hull stripped in jagged sections. Work crews clung to its sides and mag boots, sparks from cutting torches drifting away into the black. Inside the dock, Admiral Ria Solari studied a display of the FTL core schematics. "Verdict?" she asked without looking up. Chief Engineer Yara Quaid tapped the diagram with a grease-streaked finger. "They built this for stability, not speed. We can push it harder, strip out redundant safeguards. It won't be pretty, but it'll outrun anything they've fielded in a century." "And weapons?" "Weapons stay human," Yara replied. "Their plasma systems are elegant, but ours hit harder if we overdrive the capacitors. Give me a week, I'll show you proof." Solari gave a curt nod. "You have 4 days." Imperial flagship, Jatar's Wrath. High Regent Kayla stood at the viewport, watching Tsar Prime's orbital docks glide beneath the ship's shadow. His mood was uncharacteristically taut. An aide approached. "Regent, the humans have not lodged a protest over General Vance's execution." "Of course they haven't," Kayla said, voice flat. "They are calculating. Waiting. Or they are paralyzed. Either way, I will force their hand." He turned to the tactical display, eyes narrowing on the red-marked 4th planet of Sol. "Mars. Strike hard. Leave nothing that suggests mercy." Mars orbit, the trap. 2 Imperial cruisers and a destroyer translated from hyperspace, their formation tight and confident. The Martian defense grid appeared on sensors as nothing more than civilian stations and cargo platforms. In a Martian command bunker, Commander Alec Wren watched the Imperials close the distance. His finger hovered over a keyed sequence. Hold! Solari's voice ordered through the secure link. The Imperial flagship's captain opened a channel to the Martian governor. You will surrender all military assets to Imperial control. Failure to comply will result in planetary interdiction. Ren smiled thinly. Copy that. He hit the command. The civilian stations split apart. False hull panels fell away, revealing coil guns the length of city blocks and missile pods bristling like spines. Energy signatures spiked as the grid went live. The first salvo tore into the lead cruiser, shattering its shields in seconds. The destroyer tried to break formation, only to be caught in a crossfire of gravitic mines pulled from the planet's shadow. The Imperial fleet limped back into hyperspace under heavy damage, leaving wreckage trailing in their wake. The rallying cry. Hours later, broadcasts lit up the Terran underground. A dozen languages carried the same message. They came to Mars. They left in pieces. In the mining tunnels of Callisto, crews paused work to watch grainy combat footage. In orbital bars around Venus, smugglers raised glasses to the footage of a burning Imperial cruiser drifting into Mars' thin atmosphere. Graffiti multiplied, runs scrawled in black across docking bay bulkheads, etched into frost on station windows. Terran Intelligence Headquarters, Sublevel 9. Colonel Idris Kane leaned over a console as a cluster of analysts ran simulations. Pattern these, he told them, and send ghost traffic into their command net. A young officer hesitated. Sir, the Imperials will know it's fake. That's the point, Kane said. When they can't tell which ones are fake, they start chasing shadows. Within hours, Imperial channels reported supposed uprisings in 3 different sectors, none of them real. Fleet movements shifted in response, thinning the Sol blockade. The Titan offensive, outer colonies. In the darkness between Saturn's moons, a Terran raiding force emerged from behind Titan's largest refinery station. Frigates and corvettes, hulls painted in radiation-absorbing matte, streaked toward a convoy of Imperial supply haulers. No formal engagement, no drawn-out dogfight. The haulers were disabled with precise strikes to their drive sections. Cargo modules were seized, navigational arrays erased. Then the Terrans vanished again, slipping into the shadow of Titan's rings before Imperial reinforcements could arrive. Reports like this began stacking across the border worlds. Human ships didn't hold territory, they disrupted it, cutting fuel and munitions from reaching the front. Imperial fractures. In the War Council chamber aboard Jatar's Wrath, Kahless officers bickered over deployment. One slammed a clawed hand on the holodeble. This is not war. This is sabotage. Kahless' voice was ice. Sabotage only works when the prey is too weak to stand openly. They will stand soon enough. And when they do, he turned to the map. We crush them in one decisive blow. The Red Dwarf raid. In the orbit of a dim, flaring red dwarf, an Imperial shipyard floated like a crown of metal and light. It built the largest destroyers in the region's fleet, each under construction in open frameworks. From the shadow of the star's radiation storms, 6 Terran stealth corvettes coasted in silent approach. Radiation shielding flickered as solar flares burst behind them, masking their heat signatures. On the lead ship, Captain Imani Voss briefed her strike team. Once the charges are set, you have 4 minutes to extraction. Flares will cover our exit. If you miss the window, you're not coming home. The teams moved like ghosts across gantries and hull plating, planting explosive spheres the size of a human skull. When the countdown hit 0, the shipyard bloomed in fire, half-built warships tearing apart in slow, silent arcs. Voss's corvettes vanished into the flare's electromagnetic wash, gone before the first Imperial distress call cleared the jamming. Reaction in the capital. The news reached Kayla within hours. He stood unmoving as the report scrolled across the holo. Half the sector's production capacity, gone, the logistics minister said, voice trembling. It will take years. Months, Kaler interrupted coldly. We will rebuild in months. And in that time, I will see Earth burning. He ordered his flagship to the Sol front. The decision sent a shiver through the fleet commanders. Kayla's personal presence at the warfront was both a sign of commitment and desperation. Solari's move. Back in the Neptune command vault, Solari studied the Imperium's shifting deployments. The Red Dwarf raid had forced them to pull capital ships from the border to guard their own supply lines. "They're bleeding," Kane observed. "Not enough," Solari replied. "We've been cutting ropes. Now we go for the anchor." She keyed in a secure transmission to every hidden Terran fleet. "Stand by for Vance Protocol." Closing scene, the turning point. In a shadow dock deep in Neptune's orbit, a fleet began to stir, massive silhouettes hidden for decades under layers of sensor-scrambling fields. The ships were unlike anything else in human space, angular, predatory, bristling with hybrid weaponry. The crews who boarded them had trained in secrecy for half their lives. As they powered up the reactors, the decks thrummed with the same silent anticipation that now stretched across the Sol system. Vance had given the signal. Mars had proved the Imperium could be hurt. The raids had shown they could be bled. Now, humanity would show they could kill. The Earth Fleet flagship Invictus tore through the void, flanked by squadrons of destroyers and carriers, their running lights like a constellation in motion. 100 AU away, the Korthan Empire's border armadas were scrambling to form a defense line. They had never seen humans commit everything at once. General Elena Vargas stood in the war room, her palms on the edge of the hollow table. The projected map shimmered, three-dimensional, color-coded spheres marking fleets, trade lanes, and strongholds. But all eyes in the room were fixed on a blinking red diamond at the center, Korthan Prime. Her voice was steady. "Operation Iron Tempest begins in 30 minutes. No delays. The Empire executed General Harper to show strength, now we show them the cost." Her second-in-command, Commander Idris Kane, frowned. "They'll expect a revenge strike, but not at this scale. If we fail..." "We don't fail," Elena cut in. "We finish this before they realize the rules have changed." Around the table, senior officers exchanged looks. For decades, humanity had played by interstellar law, moving cautiously, fighting limited wars, avoiding civilian targets. The Korthans had shattered that balance with Harper's public execution, broadcast across 50 systems. They believed Earth would grieve and withdraw. Instead, Earth mobilized. The countdown to launch was a symphony of controlled chaos, engines warming, weapons systems cycling through diagnostics, carrier bays flooding with readiness alerts. Every crew member aboard Invictus understood this wasn't just a mission. It was a statement. Idris leaned toward Elena. "There's chatter from Korthan intelligence channels, something about Project Sentinel. Could be a planetary shield array. Too late to turn back now," she said, eyes never leaving the map. "If they've got one, we burn through it." The first jump ripped space apart. Human ships exited warp in perfect formation, 20 light minutes from the Korthan defense fleet. Alarms lit up the holotable as enemy vessels pivoted to intercept. They were vast and ornate, bristling with weapon towers, their hulls painted in imperial crimson. Admiral Torek, commander of the Korthan First Fleet, appeared on a tight beam transmission. His scaled face twisted in disdain. "You dare bring war to the gates of the Empire? Your kind is new to the stars. You will not survive this day." Elena stepped forward into the transmission frame. "You executed General Harper while he was under diplomatic protection. You sent us a message. Here's ours, we don't forgive, and we don't wait." Without another word, she cut the feed. The battle unfolded like a thunderstorm in slow motion. Korthan missile swarms lit the darkness with trails of burning plasma. Human railgun rounds screamed across the void, punching through armor in brilliant flashes. Carrier wings of exofighters dove and weaved, shredding point defense grids. On Invictus, the bridge shook under repeated impacts. Systems officers called out shield fluctuations, reactor loads, hull integrity warnings. "Forward batteries, fire on my mark!" Elena barked. "Mark!" 8 kinetic lances fired in perfect unison, their projectiles accelerated to a fraction of light speed. One struck the Korthan flagship amidships. The blast tore the vessel in half. Idris looked at her, almost shocked. "That's one fleet crippled. The others will break soon." They won't, Elena said. They'll fight to protect the core worlds. We cut deeper. Hours later, the human fleet pushed past the shattered First Fleet and emerged at the edge of Corthan Prime's defense perimeter. The planet floated like a dark jewel, its cities glittering across the night side. And there it was, Project Sentinel. A massive orbital ring encircled the planet, studded with shield emitters and fortress cannons. The barrier shimmered like a translucent sphere, warping light as it pulsed. Idris swore under his breath. That thing could hold against us for weeks. Not if we hit the right node, Elena replied. Sentinel's powered by 4 primary reactors in geosynchronous orbit. We take them out, the shield collapses. She tapped the holotable, marking targets. Strike groups 1 and 2, break the perimeter. Heavy cruisers, focus on the Eastern Arc fighters, give them no breathing room. The assault on Sentinel was chaos incarnate. Enemy guns poured fire into advancing ships, vaporizing smaller frigates in bursts of white heat. But the humans pressed forward, weaving through the fortress grid, taking hits and giving worse. In the cockpit of Invictus's lead fighter wing, Captain Juno Holt's voice crackled over comms. Node 1's exposed. Lining up the shot. A second later, a sunbright explosion tore through the shield emitter. The translucent dome flickered. 3 more coordinated strikes followed, each reactor blooming into a cloud of molten debris. With a soundless ripple across space, the planetary shield dissolved. Open channel to the surface, Elena ordered. The Corthan Prime Minister appeared, flanked by armed guards. His voice shook with rage. Human! You think destroying our shield wins you the war? You've only sealed your fate. No, Elena said, her tone cold enough to freeze iron. I've ended it. You will surrender now, or Earth Fleet will level your throned cities. And we will keep going, system by system, until the Corthan Empire is a name in a history archive. There was a long silence. Finally, the minister's jaw tightened. Stand down. We surrender. The war room went quiet except for the hum of the ship's core. Idris exhaled slowly. That's it then. Harper's been avenged. Elena didn't smile. Harper was one man. This was about every human they thought they could intimidate. They'll remember this day for centuries. She looked out the viewport at the battered, smoking ring of Sentinel. Humanity had not just survived the Empire's challenge, they had rewritten the galactic order. And in the cold, endless dark between the stars, every other power was now asking themselves the same question: what happens if we provoke the humans?